Right now, there are over 600 million people using Spotify. 600 million. Streaming music in 180 countries. Paying for it every single month. The music industry brings in tens of billions of dollars a year, and a massive chunk of that money flows through one app. One platform built by one guy in Stockholm, Sweden. But here's what makes this story insane. Before Daniel Ek built Spotify, the entire music industry tried to stop him. The biggest record labels in the world told him his idea was illegal, dangerous, destructive. They called him a pirate. They threatened to bury him. And he did it anyway. But the real story, the part that nobody talks about, starts long before any of that. It starts in a tiny apartment in a suburb of Stockholm, where a quiet kid with no money and an old guitar was about to change the world. Daniel Ek was born in 1983 in Rågsved, a working-class suburb on the outskirts of Stockholm, Sweden. His mother worked at a childcare centre. His father was a mechanic. They didn't have much, but two things filled that small apartment every single day: music and computers. His grandparents, both former musicians, gave him a guitar when he was just 5 years old. He fell in love with it immediately. By the time he was a teenager, he could play guitar, piano, and bass. Music wasn't just something he listened to, it was the thing that made him feel alive. And then there were computers. Daniel taught himself how to code as a kid. Not from school, not from a tutor, just by sitting in his bedroom, staring at a screen, and figuring it out on his own. By the time he was 13, he was building websites for local businesses out of his bedroom. Word spread fast. More clients came. So Daniel did something most 13-year-olds would never dream of. He hired his classmates, turned his bedroom into a proper little agency. By 14, that bedroom operation was pulling in $50,000 a month. His parents had no idea. They started noticing something was off when Daniel kept buying expensive video games, more than any kid his age should be able to afford. His mum eventually confronted him. He had to explain that he had been running a business from his bedroom for over a year. By the time he was 16, Daniel Ek was earning more money than his father. After high school, Daniel enrolled at one of Sweden's top engineering universities. He lasted 8 weeks. He was bored out of his mind. The real world moved faster than any classroom, so he dropped out and threw himself into the tech industry full time. He worked at a string of companies, moved fast, climbed fast, and eventually founded his own online advertising startup called Advertigo. At 23 years old, he sold it for around $1 million. He was a millionaire before most people his age had their first proper job. And then he completely fell apart. With all that money and nothing to chase, Daniel tried to enjoy it. He went to parties, bought sports cars, hung around people who wanted to be near him because of what he had. And after a few months of living like that, he said something that most people would never admit. He felt completely empty. I realised that the people I was associating with were using me, he said later. They were not really my friends. At 23, rich and miserable, Daniel Ek retired. But here's the thing about people who are built to build things. They cannot stay still for long. While Daniel was sitting in his apartment wondering what to do with his life, the music industry was tearing itself apart. It was 2006. Napster had already been shut down by the courts. Kazaa was next. Millions of people were downloading music illegally every single day, and the record labels were suing everyone they could find. Teenagers, students, pensioners, anyone they could catch. But the piracy wasn't slowing down, it was getting worse. Daniel watched all of this and saw something that the entire music industry had completely missed. You cannot arrest your way out of this problem. You cannot sue 600 million people. The only way to beat piracy is to build something better than piracy. Something faster, easier, and cheaper than stealing. That thought hit him like a lightning bolt, and suddenly the two great loves of his life, music and technology, fused together into one single idea. He was going to build a music platform so good, so fast, so easy to use that nobody would bother pirating anymore. Free music for anyone willing to sit through ads. A small monthly fee for anyone who wanted it ad-free. Simple, clean, legal. He called his co-founder Martin Lorentzon, and in 2006 they founded Spotify in Stockholm. Now here's where things get really interesting. The music industry didn't greet Spotify with open arms. They were furious. The major record labels, Sony, Universal, Warner, had spent years fighting piracy in court. And now, this 23-year-old Swedish kid was walking into their offices asking them to hand over their entire music catalogues for a fraction of what a download cost on iTunes. They said no. Negotiations went on for 2 years. 2 years of meetings, threats, slam doors, and lawyers. 2 years of the most powerful companies in the music world trying to crush this idea before it ever launched. Daniel refused to walk away. He knew the numbers made sense. He knew the model worked. He had seen what happened when Napster was shut down. Piracy didn't stop, it just moved somewhere else. The labels were losing billions fighting a war they could never win. Spotify was the exit. He just had to convince them to take it. Finally, in October 2008, after 2 years of fighting, Spotify launched. Invite only, Europe first. The interface was clean, the speed was instant, the library was enormous. People who tried it couldn't believe how good it felt. It was better than stealing. That was the whole point. Within months, the waiting list had millions of names on it. From there, the growth was like nothing the music industry had ever seen. By 2011, Spotify launched in the United States, the biggest music market on the planet. By 2012, it had 20 million monthly active users. By 2017, that number had grown to 160 million. In 2018, Spotify went public. The valuation on day one was $27 billion. The kid from Rogsved who taught himself to code in his bedroom was now running one of the most powerful companies in the world. But the war with the music industry never fully ended. Taylor Swift pulled all her music off the platform in 2014, saying music should never be free. The labels constantly complained that streaming paid too little per song. Artists grumbled, lawyers circled, and Daniel kept building anyway. Today, Spotify has over 600 million users. It pays out over $9 billion in royalties to artists and labels every single year. The music industry, the same industry that spent 2 years trying to kill Spotify, now depends on it completely. The boy who grew up in a working-class suburb with a guitar and a second-hand computer. The kid who started a company from his bedroom at 13. The 23-year-old millionaire who retired, felt empty, and came back swinging. He didn't just build an app, he took on the most powerful industry in entertainment, and he won.